panelists, friends, and guests who are joining our program today. Let me begin by conveying my warm greetings and best wishes to all of you on the occasion of Buddha Purnima. Today, we celebrate the life and teachings of Bhagwan Buddha, who was truly a phenomenal being, a spiritual guide, a teacher, a leader, a guru who unraveled the guide to end the suffering through the solution, as he said, was through the Four Noble Truths. Now, the topic of our discussion today is Buddham, Sharanam, Gacchami, Relevance of Buddhism in Times of Crisis, a topic which will find great resonance among our audience at the current time. I do not need to elaborate on the extent and nature of anguish and suffering which is felt by many at the current time, not only due to the raging pandemic, but also in numerous strifes and conflicts and the resulting human impact. Lord Buddha spoke in detail about many of these issues. And what is remarkable is that while his teachings have to be necessarily understood with an adequate reference to the times and environment in which he lived and preached, but these are equally relevant and applicable to the current times. And this is since the framework and the underpinnings that are required to understand the basic Buddhist teachings and working with one's sufferings and dissatisfaction and cultivating happiness and peace, within which the philosophy of Buddhism can be taught and understood, is also at the same time a framework of universal human values and of human endeavor to understand the world and events happening around in a rational manner. And this touchstone of personal experience and rational and critical analysis can be seen in all the schools of Buddhism, whether Madhyamaka, Yogachar, Swatantrik, Vaibhashik, or any other school. It is, I think, important to also realize in this context that when Lord Buddha gave his teachings and his philosophy at that point of time, and around that time, there was a tremendous diversity of traditions, many of which upheld distinct and in some cases conflicting views. And I'm mentioning this to bring home the fact that our topic today is also relevance in the times of crisis. So this would be important to note in that context. And these differences in views and opinions are to be expected because of fundamental diversity that exists in the mental build-up and also the inclinations of human beings. In modern times, again, Lord Buddha's teachings have been used by a number of groups to explain and justify their own thoughts and preferences. For example, agnostics and atheists consider Buddha to be one of them. Similarly, the humanists consider him as one of the earliest protagonists of their cause, the happiness and the dignity of mankind. And even those persons who declare that men cannot actually know reality, they also use Buddha's name. Again, this is to be expected as over several millennia, numerous generations of teachers and followers of Lord Buddha have produced works explaining the Buddhist philosophy as they saw at that point of time from their perspectives. Now, one question which has been posed many times in the past and may again be touched upon today is a scenario when a rational mind confronts an irrational and aggressive mind and not amenable to dialogue. Buddha teaches the Eightfold Path of right view, right intention, right action, etc. to his followers. But it is very pertinent to also study his advice on action to be undertaken by his followers when faced with an unyielding and aggressive party, and analyze this in the backdrop of the current situation, the underlying reasons, and also the mitigating measures. Buddhist books, scriptures ask us to pursue the path of wisdom, which is distinct and much more than just information and skill. And I was, before this webinar, I was checking on, again on internet, and I took a few lines from Atisha's famous book, Bodhipatha Padipa, in which the lamp for path to enlightenment, in which it is said that wisdom without skillful means and skillful means too without wisdom are referred to as bondage. Therefore, do not give up either. With these words, I'm sure our discussion today will bring out several nuggets of wisdom in the context of our topic. I will like to convey my very sincere thanks to Dharma Gate Buddhist College and the church for partnering with the embassy in organizing today's event. I still very warmly recall my last visit to the college, where I had the privilege of attending the function and also speaking to the participants there. I also especially thank Professor Bhatt and Mr. Behl, who are joining us from India today. I look forward to a very productive webinar and followed by the Vesakh Ceremony of Dharma Gate Buddhista Church. I thank you very much.
Bahut dhanyavad. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I do remember your visit to our college. That was a Maitreya event in December 2019, and now we are celebrating Buddha Purnima, Buddha Day, Vesakh Day together, and this is a very beneficial and fruitful collaboration. And first of all, I would also like to congratulate to the 75th anniversary of independence of your great nation, Bharat, India, one of the leading democracies of today's world. And I would also like to express our sincere sympathy with your citizens going through hard times of crisis with the current pandemic. And we are keeping all of you in our thoughts and in our mantras, in our meditation practices when we try to practice metta, karuna, mudita meditations. I think all of us, not only in India, but in the rest of the world, require such support from each other in these times of crisis. And that's what I would like to also mention, that in the last 30 years in Hungary, we are celebrating right now the 30th anniversary of our foundation, the foundation of Dharma Gate Buddhist Church and Dharma Gate Buddhist College. We learned to respect and really pay tribute to this great wisdom tradition originating from India, Buddhism, and all its lineages, all its traditions, all its various forms. Right now, we do face times of crisis, but I think that Buddhism and the great teachings of the Buddha was destined to face crisis. There is no real meaning in life without facing crisis, without going through difficult moments of existence. without really understanding what bhava dukkha, what that great statement of the Buddha means, that life is, or existence is suffering. Of course, we can understand suffering in different levels, in different ways. It can be understood as stress, as challenge. It can also be understood as crisis. Life is full of crises, but they also bring opportunities. And that's what the Buddha taught us, that no matter how serious or challenges are, how deep or stresses are, how much we suffer, there is a way to deal with the stress, to deal with the crisis, to deal with the suffering. And actually, the Western notion of crisis includes some clue how to respond to such challenges, which we learned from Buddhism, of course. The term crisis originates from Greek, and it means a turning point of a disease originally. Actually, originally it meant decision. Krinein, the word which it originates from, means to decide. So when we face a crisis, we face a challenge, we face a moment of decision. It invites us to decide on something or for something, to choose a different path compared to what we have been living or what we have been going through until that moment. Each crisis is a chance for another choice, for a decision, for a turning point of a disease, maybe from bad, from worse to good to better. And we tend to think that these decisions are conditioned by external circumstances or factors, that our decisions are dependent on what the system allows us to do. Besides that, which is of course important, our decisions are highly dependent on our inner capacities, what we can do, what we can decide, what inner resources we find in such moments of crisis, and how we can develop those inner resources, how we can develop our mindset, how we can develop our awareness, how we can develop our capacity for loving kindness, for compassion, for rejoicing together, mudita, karuna, metta, loving kindness from Pali. And in the end, how we can achieve balanced emotion, upekkha, how we can maintain the stability of the mind, no matter what is happening to us, no matter how serious the challenges are that we are facing. So this crisis that we are facing today is naturally inviting us to learn from the Buddha and to tap into our inner resources, to find new decisions, new choices in life, new meaning in life, how we relate to nature, how we relate to the globe, how we relate to each other, to another fellow human being suffering, how we relate to consumption, how we relate to travel. We are here in an online Zoom room, how we relate to entertainment, how we relate to health, but basically how we relate to our own mind. And through that, how we relate to another person, be that a member of our family, a colleague, a friend, or someone that we do not know, but we walk by on the street or we see suffering in the hospital or elsewhere. So everything invites us in this particular moment of crisis to turn inside, look inside, and find our own inner resources and cultivate them and develop them further in order to contribute to a situation or an environment which is less stressful, which is filled with less suffering. We can't eradicate suffering from the world, but we can probably contribute to a situation when we and our fellow citizens, friends, colleagues, family members see less or experience less of that. So that's what I think Buddhism invites us to consider, and this is the relevance of Buddhism probably even more today than in the last few decades and in the times to come. So thank you very much for your presence and your attention. And I would like to invite Dr. Bhatt, Dr. S.R. Bhatt, who is a really distinguished guest of ours, retired professor and head the Department of Philosophy, University of Delhi. He's a philosopher and Sanskritist. At present, he is a National Fellow of Indian Council of Social Science Research, working for the Government of India, Chairman of Indian Philosophy Congress and Asian African Philosophy Congress. He's member of the Academic Council of Nalanda University, Ministry of External Affairs, and he's an internationally known authority, I would say, on ancient Indian culture, Buddhism, Jainism, and Vedanta philosophy. His research areas include Indian philosophy, logic, epistemology, ethics, value theory, philosophy of education and religion, comparative religion, social and political thought. Really and highly distinguished scholar. A real privilege to have you with us, Dr. Bhatt. And I would like to ask you to also contribute to the topic of our webinar today, the relevance of Buddhism in the times of crisis.
Thank you, Professor Karsai, for giving me an opportunity to share some of my thoughts on the topic at hand with the distinguished audience. His Excellency Sri Kumar Tuhin, Professor Karsai, of course, Professor Madam Tanuja Shankar, Madam Melinda, and the Director of Buddhist Church, and other distinguished audience who are participating in this very significant webinar. We are celebrating Buddha Purnima, are also known as Vesakh celebrations, in a very critical situation. We are faced with an unprecedented crisis which has engulfed the entire globe. Perhaps such an extensive circumstance is for the first time witnessed by humanity. Never before we had such a global crisis. It was all localized, but now it has taken a very terrible shape, and we do not find whether we shall come to find an end to this, because at present in India, for example, we are experiencing the second wave, and there is a possibility of a third wave, and so forth. And this corona has affected not only the human body, but also human mind, and entire setup, social setup, economic setup, even cultural setup, and therefore it's a cause of worry. For this, I think Buddhism can give us a way out. Lord Buddha was regarded as Vesakh Guru, supreme physician for all sorts of elements, physical, mental, spiritual, and so forth. And therefore, we find that on the basis of extensive study, he was very well-read person, extensive study, intensive thinking, and deep thinking, and profound meditation, he could realize the true nature of reality and of our individual self as well. So he received what is known as Sambodhi, enlightenment. And that enlightenment that he received was not confined by him to himself only. He wanted to share it with the entire world, so that of course there is suffering everywhere, but everywhere we can have a way out of suffering. And therefore people, the whole humanity needs to have this sort of understanding as to what can be the way out for suffering. Lord Buddha pointed out that this knowledge should be disseminated all over the globe. And therefore, in his Dhammacakka Pravatana, the first discourse at Sarnath, he said, Charaka Bhikkhave Charikam. Oh, Bhikshu, you move all around, Charikam, everywhere in the globe. Charaka Bhikkhave Charikam, Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya, uh, Hita and Sukha. All our enterprises, all our behavior should be conducive to wellness, hita, and that will result in happiness. If we perform good deeds, it will be resulting in bliss, happiness. If we perform evil deed, then it will result in all vicious consequences. So Lord Buddha pointed out that in this phenomenal world, mundane world, all events, all existences have a causal origin. Dukkha samudaya, udaya, due to certain specific conditions. It is not udaya, it is samudaya. There are some specific conditions which give rise to a particular event, good or bad. And then if you remove those causal conditions, the consequences also will get eliminated, dissipated. And therefore, Buddha, when he says sarvam dukkham, everything is suffering, he was not pessimist, because he pointed out that there is definitely a way out, dukkha nirodha. And nirodha gamini pratipada, he pointed out details of that remedial measures that we have to undertake to eradicate suffering. Suffering of different sorts, as Professor Karsai has already pointed out, and all sorts of sufferings have causal origin, and they can be given proper knowledge, prajna, and good conduct, beneficial conduct, we can remove all sorts of sufferings. So Buddha was very much optimistic. Well, in the present time of crisis also, we have not to be very much under fear. Of course, the disease is very much dreadful, but there is no cause for fear. We have to have some sort of patience, and we should have sincere effort, corporate effort to find out the causes and get those causes removed. Lord Buddha pointed out on the basis of the second, and he propounded four noble truths. On the basis of the second and third noble truth, dukkha samudaya and the dukkha nirodha, he propounded the basic doctrine of pratitya samutpada. It's a keynote of Buddha's teaching. This doctrine is of dependent origination and interdependent existence. All existences have dependent origin, means they are due to their causal conditions, and they can be eliminated by removing those causal conditions. And then he pointed out for this we have to realize this whole world is a network of interrelationship. So Karsai has already pointed out different aspects of this interrelationship. Well, no one has an isolated existence. All existence have a mutual dependence. As one Buddhist scholar, Chandrakirti, in his commentary on Nagarjuna's Mula Madhyamik Parika, uses the term parasparashrita, which are all mutually interdependent. And therefore, anything which happens to one will have an effect on another. That means no isolatory existence in this cosmos we have, and therefore we have to know the nature of reality, and we have to see to it that the mundane existence is an existence of impermanence. It is finite, it is imperfect, and therefore sufferings will be there. They are not natural, they are adventitious. They come from external causal conditions, but the solution depends upon our mind or mental makeup. So a symbiosis of the external conditions and the internal ones is needed. And Buddha therefore pointed out that we should have a right understanding of the nature of reality, which means we should have this sort of, so far as our individual self is concerned, egolessness. All our life is a conglomeration of 5 elements. Well, when the elements get combined, synthesized, well, we have our individual human existence, but they can be dissipated. All this aggregate can be disaggregated. And he pointed out how it can be done. That means generally we regard our self, we mistake the body as the self. But we have to make a distinction between the body and the self which is a result of panchaskandhas, 5 conglomerates. And we find that this is not permanent, and therefore there should not be any attachment to it. There should not be no feeling that we are having an abiding self, an eternal, immutable self. There is nothing in this phenomenal world which is abiding, which is immutable. And therefore, we should not have any attachment. The term that he uses, tanha, trishna. Well, we have to, of course, we have to exist. And we have to exist in communion with the others. But this is to be done with the spirit of enlightenment, that we exist not for our own self, we exist for others as well. Technically, we call it Samata Yoga. Uh, Shanti Dev in Bodhicharya uses 2 very catchy words, Paratma Samata and Paratma Parivartan. We have to feel one with the others, sameness with others. And we have to transform ourselves as others. To transform ourselves as others means if others are happy, we should also rejoice. If others are unhappy, then we should also have a feeling of suffering and try to remove the suffering of others. So this feeling of Paratma Samata and Paratma Parivartana, first Samta and then Parivartana, well, a Bodhisattva is the example of that. A Bodhisattva is a Kalyana Mitra, a friend in wellness, in you can say happiness, and a Bodhisattva always works for others. That sort of altruistic compassion a Bodhisattva possesses. So the doctrine of Praticca Samutpada gives rise to this idea of Paratma Samata, Paratma Parivartan, which is transformed into the life of a Bodhisattva. We have 2 minutes more. We have therefore to first of all seek knowledge in the form of wisdom, not just information, as His Excellency has pointed out. And that wisdom, pragya, has to result into shila. And for that, what is needed is kushala chitta, a virtuous mind, a pious mind. If our mind is pure, our conduct also will be pure. This is the first line of Dhammapada, another Buddhist text, that we should cultivate therefore Kushala Chitta, so that our Charya is also Kushala. We have two very catchy words again, Bodhi Chittotpada. We should have the origin or cultivation of Bodhi Chitta. And if we have Bodhi Chitta Utpada, there will be Bodhi Chitta Charyavatara. Bodhi Charyavatar is also name of a text by Sant Rakshit. Bodhi Chittotpada also is a text in the Buddhist tradition. So too much of emphasis is being laid on the internal transformation. And if there is transformation within, where it exhibits from external one. And for that, what is needed is proper understanding of our own self, of the surrounding universe. And if we can do that, definitely we can have a life of mutual benefit with, and also ultimately bliss. We say Nirvanam, Paramam, Sukham, and bliss means happiness also. Sorry, bliss means the peace also. Nirvanam, Shantam is also there. Where there is happiness, there is peace. And in this universe, therefore, Buddha has we can in fact call out a blueprint for individual transformation, family transformation, social transformation, societal transformation, national transformation, and universal transformation. And for that, what is needed is we must know what is righteousness, dharma. Dhamma. Buddha, therefore we say, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami. Dharma is the principle of life. It is life-giving principle. It is dharaka. It is sustaining principle. It is sadhaka. It is a principle which enables us to acquire hita and sukha, wellness and happiness. So it is sadhaka. And it is niyamaka. This is more important. It is the regulating principle. So dharaka, sadhaka, and niyamaka, Buddha emphasized this niyamak aspect of it and said that we should follow the rules and regulations as they are propounded in Vinaya Pitaka and other texts. So he was a pioneer of the advocacy of virtue ethics. Our conduct should be virtuous, and that should be reflected in social setup, in economic organization, in political organization, in cultural setup, and so forth. On the whole, I would say Buddha was a propounder of global ethics. And therefore, we bow down to Lord Buddha, and bowing down to Lord Buddha means knowing the teachings of Lord Buddha and adhering to those teachings. More important is adhering to those teachings. Thank you very much for giving me this time and taking more than 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you, Dr. S.R. Bhatt. It was really enlightening, and now is the time for us all, including all those who are following us on YouTube, to put this wisdom of Lord Buddha into some practice, to have a little silence in our mind, to practice some meditation together before moving on with the program. So I would like to ask my colleagues, Melinda, Földiné, Irtl, and Zoltán, Cser, to lead us into some depth of meditation and silence.
Thank you. It is our pleasure to be here today, His Excellency and other distinguished guests. So it is a very special day. Today is Vesakh, and it's nice we can celebrate it together. And a wonderful speech by Professor Bhatt. It was really encouraging us. And now, right now, before we start to do any practical meditation, I would like to express that I really feel that we are like Kalyana Mitta in this event. So I would like to invite all of you to have a sit. Might be crossed legs position, might be you can sit on your chair. And before we do anything, just we greet each other as in a casual life. The same happens when we are practicing and we are greeting and we say Om Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dhammaya, Namo Sanghaya. Om Namo Buddhaya, Om Namo Dhammaya, Om Namo Sanghaya. Bring your head down, your chest. Have a deep in-breath. Breathe out gently. And release your arms. Raise your head up. And before saying that Buddha Sharanam Gacchami, that is so important, and we take it as a reminder, we can say that. And some people might be not Buddhist, but all of us in this time of crisis, we need hope, we need Shraddha, we need faith. And even a lay person feels that during all his or her life, that we need somebody to support us. We need somebody to whom we can have respect or devotion, can develop devotion, for example. So whenever we are saying or chanting the Buddha Sharanam Gacchami, maybe we can think and pay our respect even to our parents or our relatives or gurus, teachers, whoever supports us in our life. So during the time of the pandemic and other critical times, we need something to rely on and to have the faith, the real faith in that. And this devotion and respect is not blind faith. So we all have to think, use our intellect, and develop the wisdom, the prajna, as Bhatt also, Professor Bhatt mentioned it. So it's not just merely intellectual thinking, but it's a real wisdom what we can develop throughout the practice. And throughout the wisdom, we definitely will reach the morality. And morality will born out of understanding. It is not something that somebody will teach us how to behave better, how to help for those people who are suffering in the hospital. But out of the deep understanding of the Dharma, Buddha's Dharma, then immediately we are just having that active karuna within us. And we are just running to seek people who are in need. And we are using the Dhamma in action, we say. So let us bring some prana shakti into this very simple phrase, Buddha Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. So we will feel this with power and force, with meaning. Without that, it's just merely by word. So I request all of you to chant with me 3 times this formula to establish more hope, more openness, more loving kindness. So close your eyes, sit erect. And first bring your awareness to your nostrils. Have a few cycles of normal in-breath and out-breath. And use this very moment to settle down, to gather your focus, have good intention to be in the present moment. By calming down our mind, we are creating space within. We are creating space in our mind and in our heart as well. And within this space, we can remember on this triple gem. We can take them as a refuge to seek shelter. And before saying the words, just remember on those teachers, gurus who are supporting our life. Whoever brings knowledge, understanding. And remember on our true Buddha nature. And then remember on the noble teachings, what we have been receiving. On the sacred, secret teachings of Buddha, our masters, teachers, gurus. Remember on those teachings that are revealing the truth. What brings us closer to the reality. And finally, remember those who are practicing the noble path. Whoever are encouraging us to maintain our Shila, spread happiness, peace, and love. And chant 3 times the formula. of the refuge. Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami. Have a few cycles of normal in-breath, out-breath. Maintain your awareness, your open mind and heart. As our mind became focused and calm, we can develop a bodhicitta. And let us pray for all and have a good wish for the happiness of others. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be happy. Slowly pull your head down. And do the offerings within. May all beings free from sufferings. May all beings be happy. Sarve Mangalam. Slowly, gently, you can open your eyes. Happy Vesakh all. Thank you for participating in this small practice.
Thank you very much, Melinda. We are celebrating Vesakh with different approaches to life, wisdom, practice, meditation, and now from a cultural angle as well. We have Dr. Benoy Behl with us here today, who has produced several great films on Buddhism. And we would like to show you a clip with the title Sacred Dance of Buddhism, Sacred Buddhist Dance. And then I will invite Dr. Behl to share his reflections on this particular piece. Now I would like to ask my colleagues to start the film, and we will follow it on YouTube.
Ladakh, the land of high mountain passes, is nestled between the tallest mountains of the world, the Himalayas and the Karakoram range. Here, eternity is never beyond the vision of man. The Buddhist faith arrived here in ancient times. It brought with it belief in the harmony of the whole of creation. The belief that the transitory world around is an illusion called samsara. We must lift the veils of this illusion to see the truth beyond, the truth of our oneness with all that there is.
Life is difficult in the high-altitude deserts. The Buddhist faith imbues the lives of the people here with patience and understanding, with a vision which is born out of the love of all of creation, a vision which always looks to the eternal. These are lives which are touched in every moment by the sacred. In a life which is constantly imbued with the consciousness of the eternal, the gompas or monasteries play an essential part. These are in fact the centers of all village activity. The lamas are deeply respected and loved. Prayers are a constant refrain in everyday life. The gentle traditions of Buddhism are continued by the people of Ladakh till today. Their prayer wheels are meant to unite the body, mind and words in harmonious prayer. Mantras, or sacred chants, are written on scrolls of paper which are inside the prayer wheels. Prayers are also recited while turning the wheel. Thus the faithful remain fully absorbed in thoughts and deeds related to that which is beyond. Buddhists in these mountain regions also write their prayers upon flags which flutter in the breeze. They believe that the offerings of their prayers are taken by the wind and spread throughout the world. Chortans or stupas guard the entrances to the villages and dot the Himalayan landscape. They remind us that the land is truly blessed by the prayers and deeds of the faithful over the years. The Spiti Valley in Himachal Pradesh presents a vast and majestic landscape. It has azure blue skies, mountains of unimaginable hues, and bushes of sia, wild roses that fill the air with their fragrance. The high mountain passes which connect this valley to the rest of the world remain snowbound for half the year. As one can imagine, life is extremely hard. The culture of this region is steeped in the compassion of the Buddhist faith. In ancient times, the people of Tibet and the Indian Himalayas lived in fear of evil spirits, who they believed resided in the mountains and in the winds. This fear prevented them from accepting the compassionate message of Buddhism. Guru Padmasambhava was known to be a great master of Tantric Buddhism. He had studied at the renowned Nalanda University in eastern India, where he had imbibed deep knowledge of Tantric philosophy and rituals. The great Guru swept across the entire mountainous region, through Ladakh, Kinnaur, Lahaul Spiti, Tibet, Nepal and Arunachal Pradesh, establishing Buddhism everywhere. He used the greater magic of his tantras to subdue the feared demons. He made them defenders of the Buddhist faith. Till today, he remains the most revered deity of the entire Himalayan region. Padmasambhava brought with him the cham, or ritual dance. With this, he scared away negative forces and prepared the mountainous region for Buddhism. When he consecrated the first great monastery of Tibet at Samye, it is believed that he rose up into the air to dance. Where his shadow fell, the land was made pure, and this became the boundary for the sacred space of the monastery. Till today, the cham is performed across the mountains to keep the land blessed for Buddhism to prosper.
The word cham is a very difficult word. It is not translated properly so far, I believe. And there must be an equivalent word for cham in Sanskrit. You believe that through these ritual dances, with meditation, with concentration, and with visualizations, and with good motivations, then you can remove many obstacles that you may face.
The monasteries each have their own dates for the celebration of the cham. The festival is usually held over a period of 2 days, once a year. Chosen monks of the monastery perform the sacred ritual. People gather from all the villages around for the cham.
We are here at the Hemis Monastery, about 32 kilometers south of Leh in Ladakh. This monastery celebrates the birthday of the great Guru Padmasambhava. The lamas celebrate with 2 days of the cham dance, the monastic dance of the lamas. The dance celebrates the victory of good over evil. It celebrates the achievements and the magic of Guru Padmasambhava. We see him in his 8 different manifestations as he subdues evil, the evil which had haunted the minds of the people of Tibet.
The cham dance of the lamas signifies the victory of knowledge over ignorance. In Buddhist thought, the greatest evil is the ego. It is that sense of the self which is the greatest illusion that we must lose in order to gain true knowledge.
The cham begins in the morning with the appearance of Lalung Paldor. In the 9th century, King Langdharma had persecuted Buddhists. The monk Lalung Paldor disguised as a black hat dancer, came close to the king and killed him with an arrow. The event is celebrated in all the monasteries of the Trans-Himalayas as the majestic Black Hat Dance. The masks cover the ordinary day-to-day nature of the men and present instead qualities of the deities within them. There are peaceful masks and those with wrathful expressions. Finally, both symbolize the emptiness of the ultimate nature of all appearances. All sounds in the cham are sacred mantras. The drum is a reminder of the deep sound that resounded at the beginning of creation. It also sounded at the moment of the Buddha's enlightenment. It proclaimed the victory of wisdom over the darkness of ignorance. Music is presented as an offering to the divine. It elevates the mind to a deeply contemplative state, freeing it from the bindings of the mundane world. For the eternal moment of the cham, earthly reality is suspended, desires and suffering forgotten, as the deities dance, blessing every being. Vajrayana.
This is the land made pure by Guru Padma Sambhava of the Nalanda University more than 1,000 years ago. The search for the emancipation of the self continues till today. It is the desire to rise above the attachments and the illusions of the material world. A search of which the cham is an ultimate expression.
Thank you, Dr. Behl, for the opportunity to watch this clip from your longer film. I know that we were able to show this clip in Hungarian version with Hungarian subtitles as well to our viewers, which was great. And I would like to invite you to share some thoughts on your own story and history with Buddhism and filmmaking and producing these films on Buddhism, especially this piece.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, Mr. Kumar Tuhin, Venerable Gabor Karsai, Rector of the Dharma Gate Buddhist College, Mrs. Tanuja Shankar, Director of the Amrita Shergill Cultural Center, my friend Dr. S.R. Bhatt, and esteemed speakers from the Dharma Gate Buddhist College. It is indeed such a pleasure to be with all of you, and I must say that your gentle tones make one feel so much the spirit of compassion and karuna of Buddhism. Thank you. Now, the quest in Buddhist philosophy, in fact, in all the philosophic faiths of India, is always to find the means to leave behind the noise and confusion of the material world, to put aside the distractions, the many attachments and confusions of the world around us, to be able to focus our search, to find that which is lasting, that which is beyond the Maya or Mithya, the illusions of the world around us. In Buddhist thought, it was about the 4th century when Asanga and Vasubandhu developed the Yogacara school of Buddhism in Kashmir. If you are interested, the one place where you will see representations of Asanga and Vasubandhu is in the wonderful temples of Nara in Japan. In fact, Japan is very special that way. The way they maintain nuggets of ancient and valuable information is truly a pleasure. In the 8th century, by the time this Yogacara school had blossomed into the Vajrayana school of Buddhism, Guru Padmasambhava took this from the valley of Kashmir right across the Trans-Himalayan region. Ladakh, Lahore Spiti, Kinnaur, Tibet, Bhutan, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh, where it flourishes till today. Now, in Indic thought, one of the most important forms of meditation, as we had said, the idea is to leave behind the noise and confusion of the material world, to meditate upon that which is more true. One of the fine forms of meditation that exists in Indic thought is the dance. And Guru Padmasambhava took with him this high form of Vajrayana meditation, the Cham dance. During the dance and during the preparation for the dance, as the film explains, the monks spend long time in meditation. They spend a long time in losing their ephemeral concerns, their desires and attachments in the material world. Because the idea is that on the final day when the dance takes place, it is not the persons, it is not the Lamajis who will be on the sacred ground, but it is the deities themselves. As you would all know so well, in Buddhist thought, there are no gods. There are deities. And the deities are personifications of the qualities within us. The compassion within us, the wisdom within us, the grace within us, the courage and energy within us with which we would fight the demons of our ignorance. And the idea of the Lamajis is to meditate, spend long hours, long days in meditation till they have lost their ego, till they have lost their concerns with themselves, their ephemeral personalities, their transitory personalities, in order to awaken within themselves the deity, in order finally to become the deity. So what they will present on the sacred ground, as you saw in the film and as was explained in the film, is not the Lamaji, but the deity. And there is this wonderful social contract between the Buddhist followers and the Cham dancers. The followers, the Buddhists, do not come to watch this as a performance. In fact, it is such a pity where in a few of the monasteries today, you see the Lamajis performing before tourists. So that is not the purpose of the dance at all. It is a social contract where the people come. The people come to see the deities. Deities who are the personifications of the qualities within themselves. The people come with the hope of that grace being awakened within themselves so that they will themselves also eventually hope to try to become the deity. It is a marvelous, absolutely wonderful form of societies worship together. And you must keep in mind that all of what is today called classic Indian dance was like this. It was all a form of meditation. It was all a form of worship. In some pockets, it still survives. If you go to Manipur, you see the Rasa Leela dances of Manipur. And there the social contract is still alive. They do not take place on a stage. They do not take place in front of a clapping audience. They take place, as does the Cham dance in the remote places. They take place in front of the people who are there to worship the dancer. So this is one of the greatest forms of meditation. And yoga, in all its various forms, is the action part of Indic philosophy. Now, ladies and gentlemen, a seeming miracle in the story of man is the travel of ideas and the warm acceptance of the ideas of life by people from far away places surely underlines the sameness of the human condition everywhere. And one of the greatest examples of this travel of ideas is the travel of Buddhism and Buddhist ideas in ancient times. I have myself had the pleasure of documenting Buddhist heritage in 20 countries in the world, all the way west up to Kalmykia, which is in Russia, south of the river Volga. And the fascinating thing which we can choose to look at during these times of crisis is that these ideas never traveled through force. They never traveled through the sword. They always traveled and were warmly accepted because people wanted them. When people heard some of these ideas being expressed, they said they wanted to hear more. It's absolutely amazing. One of the greatest spread of ideas took place without pressure of any kind at all. It was really that India was a trading nation and merchants from India were traveling all over the place. And these merchants, you can imagine, in the end of a day of trading, could be found sitting maybe just outside the city gates, gathered around a fire, local people joining them, and they would talk. And if you know Indians, you know that they love to talk philosophically. As a matter of fact, till some years ago, even domestic help, gardeners, all such people in India used to talk constantly about refined philosophical ideas like the illusory nature of the material world. It did not need college professors to talk about these things. The common people used to talk about it. Of course, in modern times, everything is changing everywhere. But this was so till just the other day. So when people heard these Indians talking, they wanted more. Let me tell you a story. It's a story from the 4th century. There was an Indian called Kumar who was traveling across Central Asia. The king of Kucha heard that there was an Indian who was approaching the city, and he immediately set out. Such was the quest for Indian knowledge at that time. He set out with his retinue. He went and met Kumarayana, brought him back with honors to his palace, wanted to listen about Buddhist philosophy from him. And he also offered the hand of his daughter Jiva in marriage to Kumarayana. the two got married. They had a son who was called Kumara Jiva, after the names of Kumarayana and Princess Jiva. Kumara Jiva was taken by his mother Jiva to Kashmir, where he spent 13 years studying Buddhist scriptures and Sanskrit. On his return to Kucha, he became one of the best known translators of Buddhist scriptures. In fact, it is said that China attacked Kucha and annexed it because of the importance of Kumara Jiva. Such was the importance which was given to knowledge in early times. And there were many stories like this. We know this story only because the Chinese take it very seriously. There's much writing about it. There is a big statue of Kumara Jiva which is made at Kucha in front of the Kizil caves. And Kumara Jiva remains till today the most important name in Chinese Buddhism. So this is one of the stories we know about. But what is important is that this was the manner of the travel of Buddhist ideas. These are ideas which take us deep into ourselves, which is the only realm in which peace can be found, which is the only realm where the noise, the problems, the confusion, the attachments, the pain of the material world can be forgotten, where there can be a stillness, where there can be a sanctuary of peace. So in these times of crisis, Buddhism is indeed a very important philosophy to turn to. Thank you so much.
Dr. Benoy Behl, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me just tell to our viewers that Dr. Benoy Behl is a filmmaker, art historian, photographer who is known for his tireless and prolific output of work over the past 45 years. He has taken over 53,000 photographs of Asian monuments and art heritage and made 145 documentaries which are regularly screened at major cultural institutions worldwide. So it was a real privilege for us to have you with us here, and I promise that we will continue watching your films and distributing your films in our Hungarian Buddhist circles as well, together with the Indian Embassy. Thank you very much. And I would also like to thank Your Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Bhatt, Mrs. Shankar, Melinda and Zoltán, and to you, Dr. Bhatt, to attend this webinar today and to discuss the importance of Buddhism, the relevance of Buddhism in times of crisis. And now I would like to ask my colleague Zoltán to end our program with some mantra chanting. We don't have time for a longer version of your chanting, just a real short one, because our program, our Vesakh celebration, organized with the Indian Embassy in Hungary and Dharma Gate Buddhist Church and College will continue with after a short break, after 6 o'clock, with the ceremony to be held at Dharma Gate Buddhist College in Budapest with László Mirais, the head of Dharma Gate Buddhist Church, and Zoltán Cser, the director of Dharma Gate Buddhist Church. And we invite you all to continue watching this channel after the break. And thank you very much once again for this wonderful, thoughtful, deep, and very inspiring webinar.
Gāvotas pajayanti kette uttam viruhati puttanan palamasnati yomittanan nadubati jarito pabbatato va rukkhato patito naro Chuto patintam labate yomittanam nadhubati virulhamula santanam nigrodamiva maluto amittanappashanti yomittanan nadubati udetayan cakkumaeka raja harissavanno patavippabaso tan namassami harissavannan patavippabasan tayanja gutta viharemu divasan ye brahmana vedago sambadhamme te me namo te ca man palayanto namattu buddhanan namattu bodhiya namo vimuttanan namo vimuttiya imanso parittan kattva moro charati esana apetayan cakkumaeka raja harissavanno patavippabaso tan namassami harissavannan patavippabasan tayacca gutta viharemu rattin ye brahmana vedago sambadamme te me namo te ca man palayanto namattu buddhanan namattu bodhiya namo vimuttanan namo vimuttiya imanso parittan kattva moro vasana kappayeti evan me sutan ekan samayan bhagava savatteyan viharate jetavane anatha pindikassa arame tena kopana samayena candema deva punto ravana ගහිතෝ හෝති අතකෝ චන්දේමා දේව පුත්තෝ භගවන්තං අනුස්සරමානුතායන් වේලායන් ඉමං ගාතං අභාසේති නමෝතේ බුද්ධ වේරන්තෝ විප්පමුත්තෝසි සම්බදී සම්බාධ පටිපන්නෝස්මි තස්සමේ
Tisztelet minden buddhának, minden bódhisattvának és megvilágosodott lénynek, kiknek fénye.
Respect to all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and enlightened beings whose light shines brightly in the world. Respect to all the teachers who profess the Dharma to all the beings. Respect to the Sangha, the community, and all the beings who keep up and nurture the Dharma. I take refuge in the Buddhas, fully enlightened ones, teachers of the world, guardians of the Dharma, guardians of the beings. I take refuge in the Dharma, the source of liberation, the ending of suffering through wisdom. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community, noble beings who practice the path to enlightenment. May enlightenment be my refuge. May the teaching be my refuge. May the community be my refuge.
Buddhák kedvére legyek, felkeltem a megvilágosodás szellemét.
In order to please the Buddhas, I evoke the spirits of enlightenment. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering, from the causes of suffering. May they never leave the state of happiness that's devoid of all suffering. May they never leave this state which is devoid of all greed, aversion, and delusion. Buddha's follower practices the path of renunciation. All that comes to existence is impermanent, and all that's impermanent is full of suffering. Nirvana is the path to the end of suffering. With the fire sacrifice, we get rid of attachment and delusion. With this noble water sacrifice, we get rid of our impurities that prevent us from compassion. With this noble food sacrifice, we renounce all our excesses and self-importance.
A magasztosnak tetsző füstáldozattal lemondunk szenvedést
With
eredmény.
this noble smoke sacrifice, we renounce our wrong deeds that lead to suffering. With this noble flower sacrifice, we renounce our impermanent world.
Most mondjuk el közösen a nem ártás, a sílák szerinti élet fogadalmai.
Let's recite the Sila, the way of harmlessness. I pledge to refrain from killing. I pledge to not taking what's not mine. I pledge to refrain from excesses in conduct. I pledge to refrain from lying. I pledge to refrain from intoxication. I pledge to keep the 5 precepts, to value and protect life, to be content to seek knowledge and truth, and to maintain pure consciousness.
Nagy tisztelettel köszöntöm az Ádi Buddhát, mindannyiunk legbelsőbb
I
lényegét.
greet the Adi Buddha, the original Buddha, the Jnani Buddhas, the Buddhas of the 4 directions, Amitabha Buddha, the Buddhas of the north, the east, the west, and the south, and the center, Akshobhya Buddha. I greet Shakyamuni Buddha. I greet Samantabhadra, Bodhisattva. I greet all the Bodhisattvas. I greet Bodhidharma, all the teachers of the past, Nagarjuna, Aryadeva. I greet Asanga, Vasubandhu, Dignaga, Dharma Kirti, who managed to get the teaching across to us. I greet all who are present with us today and all the followers who are watching this via the internet. I greet all that are here through the Indian Embassy and everybody.
A mai alkalom rendkívül jelentős ünnep. Tulajdonképpen szigorúan véve 3
This is a very significant celebration we celebrate 3 very important things: the Buddha's birth, enlightenment, and passing away. For the 2565th occasion. Even though these events did not happen at the very same time, we celebrate them together. This also marks a Buddhist New Year. This is a most important Buddhist celebration. At these times, we reflect on the circumstances of enlightenment. In this way, this celebration, this day, connects all the Buddhists around the world. We're together, whether in person or in the virtual world. And this gives us hope and a means to eradicate suffering.
India függetlenségének a 75. évfordulója is most van.
And this is also the 75th anniversary of India's independence. And I welcome His Excellence, the Indian ambassador, and this is a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to organize this event together with the Indian embassy and celebrate together this time. Tomorrow marks the anniversary of the 30th anniversary of the Dharma Gate Church. Over the course of the summer, 30 years ago, the Dharma Gate Buddhist College was founded, and in September, education started. By this, our efforts to convey Buddhist teachings can be represented at the highest educational level. This wonderful, amazing repository of teachings that is the Buddhist thought is now conveyed in Hungarian at university level. Another important point is that His Excellence, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, turns 86 years old this year, and we wish that we have his continuing presence for many more years and remain a leading figure in Buddhism, in the Buddhist community around the world. His person guarantees the continuity of the essence of Buddhism. His personal realization makes him the ideal leader of all Buddhists around the world. During this full moon, we celebrate all these events together.
Nos, ha említettem őszentségét, akkor mindjárt vele szeretném kezdeni a Dharma beszédet.
As I mentioned, His Excellence, His Holiness, the Dalai Lama.
Mert szeretném szó szerint idézni, ami részben ide tartozik, és hát részben nekünk nagyon fontos, hogy ezt a szöveget ő annak idején közkincsé tette.
I'd like to quote from a text, one of his texts. This text was written down in 1956. It was a speech in Delhi on the occasion of the anniversary of the Buddha's parinirvana, the 2500th anniversary. The ever-shining Buddha predicted in one of his sutras that after 2500 years, the Dhamma will shine again in the red-faced, in the land of the red-faced people. The Tibetans once thought that this meant their land. But one of them thought that this was prediction about Europe. We can see some signs of this happening even now. This is what the Dalai Lama said in 1956, 65 years ago. The Dalai Lama predicted something that seemed to be happening. The Buddhism is gaining strength in Europe. It's gaining strength in the United States. More and more people get to know the Dhamma, get to study the Dhamma. And this also marks transformation in Europe. More and more people are choosing to eradicate suffering and choosing to become more and more humane. This transition from east to west is what the Tibetans called this the flame. When the kindling starts to burn, this is what the Buddhist teaching is likened to in the West.
Hiszen talán érdemes egy gondolat erejéig kitérni arra is, hogy mi európaiak, mi akik a buddhizmust.
There are some very common things and teachings among the different Buddhist schools. We in Europe, we get our sources from various teachers. We get our sources from various teachers and sources and all these different schools. We have to make use of this diversity. The Dharma Gate Buddhist Church and College represents this notion. We don't belong to one sect, one denomination of Buddhist teaching. We aim to host all the teachings of the Buddha, all the Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana teachings of Buddhism. We aim to unite all these denominations and communities. And one thing that's common in all of these schools and sects of Buddhism is emptiness. We know all three great vehicles share this notion, emptiness. It not only exists in all three main schools of Buddhism, but it's a key concept in all of them. Without understanding this concept, there's no chance of enlightenment. There's no chance of facing death. There's no chance of living life fully and in a rich way. We have to continually reflect on this notion, emptiness. In the Theravada school, we can talk about the Pudgala Shunyata, the emptiness of the person. In the Mahayana school, we can talk about the empty nature of the external phenomena. In the Vajrayana school, we can talk about all phenomena, the emptiness of all phenomena. As a Buddhist practitioner, it is our duty to continually reflect upon this notion and try to understand it ever deeper. Some translate this concept as non-existence, as nihilism. Some fall into the trap of only concentrating on the negative aspects of emptiness. But emptiness is just a term. It's just a word. We have to see what's empty. And when we see what's empty, we can understand emptiness itself. Professor S.R. Bhatt mentioned the five khandhas and Paticca Samutpada. And reflecting on the self through these five skandhas, reflecting on what we are, and realizing the fact that these are all interconnected. And there's nothing that essentially connects them and remain independently of them. We have to understand this interconnectedness to understand emptiness. When we talk about emptiness, we don't talk about the lack of a phenomenon. We don't talk about what isn't. We talk about the interconnected nature of phenomena. There's nothing that exists by itself, individually. When we realize this interconnected nature of phenomena, we can experience the emptiness, the empty nature of phenomena. Emptiness is not a negation. It's not something, it's not saying that either of the skandhas don't exist. Emptiness is seeing that even though they exist, they don't exist individually. They only exist in their interconnected nature. And when we see this and realize this, we can get a glimpse at the true nature, the true essence behind all this. Take a look at our bodies. If we think about our individual organs, our livers, the hands, the knees. If we take a look at the human body, we can realize that it can only function in an interconnected way, only together, can only work well if it works together, if all the different parts and organs belong to one another. Every organ and every part of the body has their own function, and they are all interconnected. It's an organic system. We can think of the individual organs and parts of the body, but not one can exist by itself apart from the body.
Vagyis az ürességet nem tudjuk megérteni, ha nem értjük meg.
Emptiness, therefore, cannot be logically inferred. It can only be experienced. We have to experience life. We have to experience the world. Therefore, form is emptiness, and emptiness is form, as the Zen masters say. And we have these two layers of truth, conventional truth and the final truth. And these two are also interconnected. To mention Yogacara, Asanga, and Vasubandhu, they talk about some key concepts that we need to grasp. One of these is that consciousness and states of mind exist in a hierarchy. I may have a state of mind perspective from which I see the world around me, but there can also exist a higher state of mind, a higher consciousness, when I can see a very different picture. I can realize the interconnected nature of all phenomena, and I can realize this trait, this characteristic of nature that we call emptiness. We have to be aware of these states of mind and these levels of consciousnesses, and we have to strive for higher and higher states of consciousness. Yogacara also says that phenomena are either impossible to know or they are illusionary. So what do we do with this? What do we do with this choice that we're faced with? Our consciousness is above the subject-object duality. It's beyond these two things. If we realize the true nature of consciousness, we realize Udgala Shunyata, which is the empty nature of the self, the person. And by this, we realize that all of these compounded phenomena are interrelated and interconnected, and they can only work together. When we try to focus on an emotion and try to discover its essence, we can't find the final answer. We can never find essence behind these phenomena. It's as if we were in a dark room and suddenly the light was switched on, and we can never know if there was ever darkness, because we can see everything clearly now.
De nem azért, mert nincsenek, hanem azért, mert vannak, csak éppen nincs önvalójuk, nincs önmagukban valóságuk, hanem összekapaszkodva vannak. Az egyik függ a másikától.
We shouldn't deny the existence of phenomena, though. The only thing that we should say that they are illusionary, and that means they have no permanent self. They don't exist by themselves. They all exist in an interconnected manner. I don't recommend anybody trying to step in front of a tram saying it's just illusion.
Mert abban a pillanatban, hogy a tudat képes alany és tárgy fölöttiségben eljutva, megtisztulva, átélni.
The world is only an illusion when the mind is capable of rising beyond the subject-object duality.
Kettősége jelent, ha ezt át tudja élni, ha a kettőt egybe tudja látni, ha látja a világot, és látja azt a mögöttes tartalmat, amit ürességként nevezünk.
If one can see the world and what lies behind, the meaning behind the world, if one can see the empty nature of existence, the true nature of existence, that's the high consciousness we should be aiming for.
Ami lényegében úgy szól, mondja, nem az Avatamsaka Szutrában van ez, hanem melyik szutrában is volt ez egy pillanat? Lankavatara Sutra.
One of the key concepts of Yogacara is in the Lankavatara Sutra.
De valóban onnan van a Lankavatara Szutrából, amikor azt mondja, hogy a megvilágosodást előlünk tudati természetű akadályok gátolják meg.
And that says that enlightenment has its boundaries in our minds. All that's blocking us from reaching enlightenment is in our minds. So it's not my neighbor who prevents me from reaching enlightenment. It's not the worldly things. It's not that here in Europe we have to run around all day doing chores. It's not that.
Nem is az akadályozza meg a megvilágosodásunkat, hogy nem juthat el hozzánk esetleg eredetileg a tan, ahogy az kellene, vagy...
It's not even that the Dharma is far away from us. It's not that we don't get teaching. The causes that prevent us from enlightenment are of mental nature. These bad habits, these bad thoughts, these bad emotions, these prevent us from seeing emptiness in the things and behind the things and together with things around us in the world. When we say that the blockages that prevent us from enlightenment are in our minds, we have to look into ourselves and try to discover what exactly these blockages are. What kind of memories, what kind of patterns, what kind of hereditary traumas and ideas are stored in our psyches that essentially prevent us from moving forward. These mental factors in the Yogacara thought are called the vasanas. when we think about emptiness,
megjegyeznünk, hogy ne arra törekedjünk, hogy az ürességet valamiféle
it's paramount to remember
állapotként fogjuk meg,
not to think of emptiness as a state.
ott lesz az üresség, és akkor majd a tudatunkat is
It's not as if we would go beyond the world and there we would meet emptiness.
intézkedünk, hogy akkor lássuk,
No,
hogy
it's in the things, it's around us,
amik lekötnek minket,
in us.
lebilincselnek,
We have to find emptiness in our daily lives, find emptiness in the things,
ez mutat rá arra,
find the interconnectedness of things.
tehát nekünk a dolgokba,
And when we discover the emptiness in things, we discover
akkor nem az
the true nature of things.
az ürességet, hogy egy hatalmas bunkóval fejbevágjuk magunkat, és akkor
Hitting ourselves,
megszűnik az akarat,
healing ourselves,
gondolkodás, meg megszűnik az érzet,
and making ourselves unconscious by any means is not emptiness, is not a means to enlightenment. The way to enlightenment is being in the world, consciously aware, and seeing this true nature of phenomena, seeing the interconnected nature of things.
és nem is hagyjuk, hogy ez elszabaduljon bennünk.
And when we get a glimpse at this emptiness, we should never let it go.
Mondani szerettem volna ezen a rendkívül jelentős ünnepen, amikor
Well, what I wanted to say
dolgot ünneplünk,
on this auspicious event that has many, many layers,
a konferencián, és a nagykövet úr elmondott a konferencián, azon
what I wanted to add, beyond what has been said during the conference
működésünkben
by all these great thinkers,
a dolgok
is that we should try to focus on the empty nature of the things around us,
magával rántja
and
a jelenség,
we shouldn't let
ne engedjük
the diversity of phenomena
az individuum
to
sokféle
turn our mind's eye away
hanem lássuk
from
meg
seeking the truth
létező
of emptiness and the interconnected nature of things.
így gyakorolunk, ha így ismerkedünk az ürességgel, hogy nem is az dolgokat nézzük, azt nézzük, hogy a dolgok mennyire valósak, azt nézzük,
When we practice this way, when we look at the interconnected nature of things, we will realize that the paticca samuppada
az üresség
is
mutatja meg nekünk.
about emptiness itself.
Nem más, mint az ürességet mutatja meg.
It is the same
Tehát a gyakorlat
as emptiness.
ne az üresség álljon, hanem a dolgok valódi természete.
So the focus of our practice should not be emptiness itself. It should be the nature of things, the nature of our everyday things.
De van akció. Hogy a
If there's action,
hogyan,
where's the object and where's the subject?
milyen fontos az, hogy
What's happening?
tudás felé fordulva létezzünk. Milyen fontos az,
It's very important to exist, to live our lives turning towards liberation.
hogy létezik. Ahogy
It's very important to turn towards
Jézus mondja, mutassátok
this focus
mutassatok meg egy szilárd
on the discovery of the true nature of
semmi
the
önmagában
world.
valóságos dolog. Minden csak függésben létezik. És ha ezt látjuk a dolgokba, akkor az ürességet látjuk. És akkor
When we see the interconnected nature of things, we see emptiness. And that is liberation.
és így kell nekünk gyakorolni. És mi, akik itt
This is how we should practice.
és teljesen el vagyunk öntve egy materialista világgal.
Here in the West, we
Egy fogyasztói kultúrával,
have this general attitude of consumerism and egocentrism we're blinded by this consumerist society.
És a szél, az 5 fokú szél egyre áramlik kifel. Na, ez ilyen körülmények között nekünk látni kell ebbe az egész jelenség halmaz.
It's paramount that we see in all this storm of phenomena
Ember, te csak egy kis porszem vagy ebbe a nagy világban, menj innen, menj félre, ne szórakozz. És nekünk látni kell, hogy erről szó sincs. Ezt az egészet a tudat.
that whatever is in front of us is an illusion.
Ha nem vigyázunk, ha nem figyelünk magunkra, ha nem járjuk az ösvényt, akkor a tudat vetíti elünk, és az elragad minket.
It's all created by the mind. And if we don't pay attention, if we're not alert, it's going to sweep us off our feet. And that's why we should continually strive towards knowledge and discovering the true nature of existence.
És ebbe a lehetetlen helyzetbe is egyfajta emelkedettséget tud belevinni az, hogy van valaki, Shakyamuni Buddha, amit
This auspicious event reminds us that in all this turmoil, there's something that we can hold on to, a beacon of light in the darkness. And that's the life and the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha. And we are grateful for the Buddha and all the teachers that have kept the teaching alive throughout the centuries. The 30th anniversary of the Dharma Gate will also be celebrated in September, because that's when the school year started. But this is also a significant event because this was the start of the church. We will have a book about these 30 years, and we'll also produce a film to commemorate these 30 years by September. We can be content with the fact that in this continent there's an institution that's committed to preserving the Buddha's teaching and is able to convey the Buddhist teaching at university level. I'd like to invite everybody to our September event, when we're going to celebrate this anniversary, the launching of the college in September. This is all I had to say. Thank you very much.
Most mondjuk el közösen a Bodhisattva fogadalmakat.
Let's recite the Bodhisattva pledge. Suffering beings are numerous. I pledge to help them all. Bondages of pleasure are manifold. I pledge to break free from all of them. Teachings are manifold. I pledge to learn them all. The way is to completion. I pledge to walk it to the end. In order to become the authentic Dharma teacher, I realized the 10 perfections: giving, morality, patience, energy, absorption, wisdom, skills, devotion, strength, and teaching. I regard the Theravada and Mahayana teachings as sacred. To those who seek the Dharma, I teach it with wisdom and goodwill. My life is an example. I do not seek to convert anyone. To the other shore, I lead those who seek the truth.
Tiruan Saranai. Így köszönnek Sri Lankán, ami azt jelenti, hogy Tri Ratna Sharanam. Úgyhogy a buddhistáknak
This is how they greet each other in Sri Lanka. The three gems, the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, shall be my refuge. It's very important because in our world, it's very rare to find refuge. So it's very nice that when you say this in Sri Lanka, everybody knows that you're a Buddhist. So let's examine what happens to three gems if the Buddha is not present. We do have the Buddha nature though, and we do have the Sangha, and we have the Dharma with us. This triple gem is what saves you from causes of suffering. It's futile to try to get rid of suffering because it will return. We have to get rid of the cause of suffering. Our aim is to eradicate the causes of suffering. And that's why the triple gem is the ultimate refuge. The Dharma is a model of education that we can find in Buddhism, the Sila Samadhi Panya, which is morality, meditation, and wisdom. What this means is that we have to act with the ahimsa, harmlessness, in our action. This will protect us eventually. The meditational concepts that the Buddha has given us, our means to achieve all this.
Például a tibeti rendszerben védelmező dharaniként alkalmazzák, de tulajdonképpen a negativitások elhárítására alkalmazzák. És elég sajátos módon, mert nem úgy történik, hogy neki mennek az ellenségnek, hanem felismerik, hogy a természete üres. És
So,
aminek az ürességét ismerik,
in Tibet, for example, you can use insight into the true nature of phenomena, realizing emptiness as a weapon. Through vipassana, you can see the nature of things. And that's why they say that knowledge of emptiness is the greatest protection there is, the highest form of protection. And the way to gain this invaluable insight of emptiness is through meditation. On this day, we reflect on the triple gem and the events at the eve of the Buddha's enlightenment.
amit azóta se senki, előtte pedig az előző buddha tudott csak elérni, hogy egy éjszaka alatt megszüntette a tudatában lévő összes akadályt. A négy márát, amely a négy tudati fátyollal, a négy...
He eradicated during the course of one night all the defilements in his mind.
Volt egy emberi testben megjelent lény, aki ezt képes volt véghez vinni, ami azt jelenti, hogy egyszer mi is meg tudjuk ezt tenni.
And since the Buddha was human, this gives us hope that once we too would be able to do this. Very briefly, we will do this meditation and try to emulate what the Buddha achieved and hope that we can realize it one day in its full potential. And we seal it with a mantra at the end. Let's sit in a comfortable position. Let's feel the earth as it provides us support. Feel the center of the body. The first act is to turn inwards. Let go of samsara. We feel our bodies from the top of our head to the toes.
Ez volt Buddhánál a délután, a naplemente időszakának a gyakorlása, és az első a kifelé fordított démon legyőzése.
The first act during the afternoon was the vanquishing of the external demons.
Tökéletes jelenlét állapotában, teljes mértékben tudat önmaga felé, befelé fordul. Második.
In the state of the perfect presence, we turn our attention towards 5 defilements. The aim here is to remain at the center, relaxed, and keep continuity of the breath in its natural form.
pátyol, vagy a harmadik démon, amit a hajlamok démonának, skandhamárának is neveznek. Ez az, amelyik a személyiséget generálja.
The third Behl, the third demon, is our tendencies, our personality. We have to recognize and realize who's practicing.
Én üressége, vagy az éntelenség állapota után úgy mondják, hogy felragyog a tudat ragyogása, vagy tiszta fénye.
After the emptiness of the self, the veils of delusion fade away, and the pure light of consciousness starts to shine. Let's recite the Heart Sutra. Let's start with a bow. After the bow, I'll hit 7, and on the 8th hit, we'll start the recitation.
felébredés drága szelleme, az értelem és jó szándék jelenjen meg mindazokban, akikben még
May
nem
the precious spirit of enlightenment, awareness and kindness appear in the ones who don't have them yet. And may those who already have them keep them strong. By the blessing of the three Buddha bodies, never changing truth of the Dharma, the striving of the Sangha, may these wishes be fulfilled. With these virtues, may I realize enlightenment, to lead the way wisely and compassionately, so that all beings reach complete Buddhahood.
Namo Ratnatrayaya, Namo Arya Jahana Sagara Meruchana, Mayuharajaya Tathagataya, Arahate Örülök, hogy együtt ünnepelhettünk.
We are very glad we had this opportunity to celebrate together. And I wish a very good New Year to everybody.
És akkor most egy meditációba lesz részünk, ha nem csalódom.
I'm going to have a meditation.
Amiről a Surangama Sutra azt mondja, hogy a legmagasabb szintű meditáció.
According to the Shurangama Sutra, the most noble of meditations, sound meditation.
köszönjük. Mindenkinek köszönjük, hogy együtt ünnepelhettünk. Mindenkinek a legjobbakat kívánjuk enni a buddhai évre. És kívánjuk újabb 30 évet ezekhez, és az minden intézményének.
We wish another 30 years for all Buddhist institutions of the world.
Hogyan lehet viszonyítani a modern időkhöz egy olyan időt, 2500 évvel ezelőtti időt, ahol fejedelemségek voltak, nem volt technológia.
Hozzávetlegesen 2500 évvel ezelőtt valóságosan élt személyről van szó. A szakja népnek hát azt mondhatnám, hogy királyi jelöltjéről.
Egy remete a Himalájából megérkezik, akinek látomása van a megszületett hercegről.
Ugye, aki mielőtt még a királyságban rákerült volna a sor, ugye azelőtt tulajdonképpen elvonult, mert úgy gondolta, hogy ő nem a világi királyságot választja, hanem egyfajta szellemi királyságot, egy egészen másféle elképzelést, amivel persze eléggé elkeserítette az édesapját, aki úgy gondolta, hogy egy kiváló harcost farag belőle, és valakit, aki majd hódításaival gyarapítja a kis királyságnak a területét.
Nyilvánvaló, hogy az édesapja akkor mindent megtesz, hogy a fia ne szembesüljön azokkal a tényezőkkel az életben, amelyek arra sarkalnák, vagy arra indítatnák, hogy befelé forduljon.
Ahogy született és ahogy meghalt, hogyha lehántjuk a legenda meg a mítosz elemeit erről a történetről, akkor egy nagyon is emberi életút vázolódik fel előttünk. És kiemelkedő teljesítmény végigjárni, de minden ember számára nyitva áll, és ez a legfontosabb tanítása szerintem.
A Vesakh, a májusi telihold ünnepe.
A világon mindenhol ilyenkor általában összejönnek a szerzetesek, a buddhisták, és megünneplik, tehát ha valamikor, akkor ezen az ünnepen biztos, hogy összegyűlnek a buddhisták.
Ilyenkor megemlékeznek az alapítómesterről, a Buddháról, ugye Gautama Siddhartha hercegről, akinek a Buddha elnevezése csak egy díszítő jelző, azt jelenti, hogy a megvilágosodott, vagy a felébredett.
Buddha élete megvilágosodása és eltávozása, ezt egy időben ünnepeljük, tehát a Vesakh mind a hármat magába foglalja. A mi egyházunk szempontjából nagyon izgalmas ez a kérdés, ugye, hogy több különböző közösségből áll, több különböző vonalat képvisel, Theravada, Mahayana, Vajrayana vonalat egyaránt. Különböző gyakorlatrendszereket, elméleti megközelítéseket a buddhizmuson belül.
Tajvanon vízzel hintik meg a Buddha szobrokat, vagy Srí Lankán nagyon színes lámpákat, lámpásokat, lampionokat gyújtanak többek között. Az imént említett Szingapurban meg madarakat engednek ki ketrecekből, a felszabadulást, a megszabadulást, a szabaddá válást jelképezendő.
Tudjuk, hogy megöregszünk, meghalunk, de azt hisszük, ez másokkal fog megtörténni. Velünk nem. Velünk biztosan nem.
Még a Buddha születése előtt megjövendölték, hogy vagy megvilágosodott bölcs, vagyis Buddha lesz, vagy pedig egy nagy államférfi, egy nagy politikus, tehát egy hatalmas világi ember. És ugye természetesen az apja azt kívánta neki, amit gondolom, hogy a legtöbb szülő kívánna a gyerekének, hogy ugye ne szerzetesnek álljon, vagy megvilágosodjon, hanem akkor ezt a sikeres világi pályát fussa be. És ezért, ugye a legenda szerint, az apja egy olyan életmódot alakított ki a fiatal leendő Buddha számára, hogy ez a fiatalember úgy nőtt fel, úgy nőtt bele a fiatal felnőtt korba, hogy fogalma se volt arról, hogy az ember megöregszik, meghal, hogy van betegség a világon.
A Buddha hagyomány szerint összetalálkozott az egyik kilovaglás alkalmával egy beteggel, aztán a következő alkalom egy öreg emberrel, aztán a következő alkalommal látott egy halottat. Ezek nagyon elgondolkodtatták őt a világ természetét illetően. És aztán pedig látott egy halott égető helyen meditációban üldögélő szerzetest, és ennek a szerzetesnek a nyugalma ezen a meglehetősen kedvezőtlen helyen erőteljesen elgondolkodtatta, hogy ő maga is alá van vetve, mint olyan ember, aki megszületett az öregségnek, betegségnek és halálnak, és ezt valahogy végig kellett neki gondolnia, hogy milyen módon tudja ezt a meglehetősen esendő és törékeny emberi állapotot meghaladni.
Ő ott hirtelen így rácsodálkozik, és szinte így most azt mondanám, hogy köpni nyelni nem tud.
És akkor döntött úgy, hogy elvonul a hagyományos kifejezés szerint az otthonából az otthontalanságba. Elindul egy tanítóútra, egy olyan tanítóútra, ami aztán később, mint kiderült, ugye 45 évig tartott.
A Buddhának az élete az, hát körülbelül olyan volt az első szakasza, mint egy ingának a kilengése az egyik végletből a másik végletbe. Egy ilyen mesterségesen gyönyörfókuszált környezetben élt, tehát hogy minden az ő kényelmét és boldogságát szolgálta. Tehát, hogy ő ezt abszolút kihasználta, mindene megvolt, ezt a végsőkig megtapasztalta, hogy ez egy természetes emberi reakció, hogy ez ebből a végletből átcsap a másik végletbe. Tehát amikor otthonról eltávozott és elkezdte a gyakorlatait, akkor szinte természetes volt, hogy egy ilyen nagyon-nagyon aszketikus, nagyon erős, szinte hihetetlenül önkínzó gyakorlatsorba fog bele.
Amikor baj van, orvoson nem gondolkodunk akkor, amikor egészségesnek érezzük magunkat, csak akkor, amikor valami fáj. Ha meg nagyon fáj, ilyen lelki vagy szellemi értelemben, akkor meg még inkább érthető, hogy valamiféle ellenszerhez szeretnénk eljutni, hogy ezt az okot, ami kiváltja ezt az állapotot bennünk, ezt megszüntessük.
Jó, akkor befelé fordulunk. Hogyan tegyük mindezt? És egy újabb kettősség jelenik meg, ez pedig az aszkézis és a jólét kettőssége, tehát, hogy a boldogság állapotát úgy érem el, hogy mindent kihasználok az életben, minden élményt, vagy pedig úgy érem el, hogy megvonom magamtól ezeket a úgynevezett érzékszervi örömöket. Buddha azt fedezi föl, hogy az örömről való lemondás nem vezet a megszabaduláshoz. Az a Narayana folyón, egy tutajban, a vínán, ugye egy hangszeren tanítja a mester a tanítványt, és azt mondja, hogy ha túl feszíted a húrt, elpattan, ha túl lazán hagyod, akkor nem szólal meg.
Belül keressétek a fényt, önmagatokban lejjetek menedéket. Vezéreljen az igazság, mint fény a sötétben, mert ez lehet csak menedéktek. Magatokban, nem másokban higgyetek.
Azért nevezik a Buddhát sokszor orvosmesternek, mert nem csak egy diagnózist állít föl, hanem megmondja a bajnak az okát, ugye megmondja azt, hogy ez kezelhető, és aztán egy pontos kezelési módot is ajánl.
Amikor Buddha elfoglalta a helyét a világfa tövébe, ugye, és azt mondta, hogy száradjon el a bőröm, és a csontjaim porrá törjenek, de én addig innen fel nem állok, amíg a megvilágosodást el nem érem. Tehát egy ilyen rendkívül heroikus aktussal leült a megvilágosodás fája tövébe.
Elhatározza, hogy most aztán végére jár a dolognak.
Siddhartha a fa alatt meditálni kezd.
A nagy tükör, amiben bele kell nézni, az önismeret tükre, hogy elfogadni magunkat úgy, ahogy vagyunk, hibásan, tele akadályokkal, és minél inkább rálátunk ezekre a finom fátylakra, ezekre a belső démonokra, annál inkább szabadok vagyunk.
Most ne higgyetek el semmit csupán azért, mert egy Buddha mondta, hanem mindent ellenőrizzetek ti magatok. Nézzétek meg, hogy a tanítások megegyeznek-e tapasztalataitokkal, és legyetek önmagatok vezérlőfénye.
A Buddha olyan sztorikat elmesél az életéből, ami megint csak azt mutatja, hogy volt benne önreflexió, volt benne humor, mert nevetni saját magán, ezt csak én mondom zárójelben, persze ezt nyilván nem tudom bizonyítani, de amikor olvasom ezeket a kanonikus szövegeket, én mindig azt látom, hogy egy nagyon-nagyon intelligens, egy nagyon nyitott és saját magán nevetni tudó ember meséli el, hogy hogyan ért el a megvilágosodást. Nem kívánta senkitől, hogy higgyenek benne, sőt, mi több, ami nagyon szokatlan egy vallás alapítótól, hogyha belegondolunk, felszólította a tanítványait arra, hogy ne higgyenek neki.
A dolgok összetettek, és mivel összetettek, minden múlandó. Aminek kezdete van, véget is ér egyszer. Békélj meg ezzel, s minden jóra fordul.
Az ő betegsége, az ő halála, az ugyanolyan volt, mint bármilyen emberé.
Elkövetkezik a legenda szerint ugye az a bizonyos utolsó esemény, amikor egy meghívás esetén felszolgálnak neki különféle ételeket, és ő az egyik ételre azt mondja, hogy azt ő fogja megenni, ahhoz ne nyúljanak a szerzetesek. Akkor hát azt mondhatnám, hogy valamilyen módon egészen jelképesen ugye bevállalja a saját halált. Amikor azt megeszi, akkor hát erős problémái támadnak, fizikai problémái támadnak, tehát, és onnantól kezdve aztán hát elkezdődik egy ilyen betegségi és haldoklási folyamat.
Hogy meg az utolsó pillanataiban is a tanítványait kérdezte, hogy most kérdezzetek még, hogyha akartok valamit tudni, mert nem sokára nem lesz rá lehetőség.
Ugye ezek az utolsó szavai, ugye a megőrzött utolsó szavai, hogy azt mondja, hogy fáradhatatlanul fenntartott éberséggel törekedjetek.
De legfontosabb véleményem szerint ilyenkor arra emlékezni, hogy Buddha a megvilágosodás fája alatt olyan élményeket élt át, amelyek nekünk itt nagyon jelentős. Ugyanakkor ezek az élmények nem valami olyan extra élmények, amelyek csak nagyon-nagyon kivételes alkalmakkor jelennek meg, hanem tulajdonképpen olyan élmények, amelyek nálunk is elő tud jönni. Nincs bennünk vágy, gyűlölet és tudatlanság, akkor el tudunk jutni odáig, hogy megéljük azt a pillanatot, megéljük tökéletességnek és végtelenségnek azt a pillanatot, ami éppen itt van, és tulajdonképpen ez már kicsiben a megvilágosodás. Az a helyzet, hogy ilyen egyszerű. Úgyhogy tényleg valahol egyszerű, de ehhez az egyszerűséghez eljutni, hát az egy kicsit, hogy úgy mondjam, nehézkes.